put a lot of effort into this. Today, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. I've seen some people don't like Flesh and Blood TCG, and I figured this video is gonna help them understand from what I've seen from it, how I understand it, and why, as the title suggests, why it has a relation, an element, a feel to it that's very much similar to the Dark Souls video games. And I'm like, how can a video game? Well, how you feel, how you react to it. That's what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm gonna enjoy my PhD. Alright. But now, for some people, I got a big old page right here. Whew, man, we got about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, quite a bit that we're gonna go into. But this is gonna be interesting, and I put a lot of time into it. So I'm very much hopeful that this is gonna be something that you can show to someone who's new, who might be interested, so that when they get a feel for it and they have an understanding, just this is designed to be a difficult game, it's no different than Dark Souls. But let's get started. Now, for some people, they actually enjoy Flesh and Blood TCG, and some others tried it and decided that it's not for them. And as the title suggests, I'm going to go into detail as to why elements from Software's difficult games such as Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, you name it, apply to Flesh and Blood TCG. But I'd like to go straight to Wolner. Now, let me explain about High Lord Wolner. High Lord Wolner, you get to face him right after you beat the Watch. It's particularly the guild that's associated with the Wolf Blood. Trying to think, Artorias' clan and Dark Souls 3, but Wolner, deep in the crypt, you touch the chalice, and next thing you know, you're transported into the Dark Realm, or Special Realm, or whatever it is. And you walk down the path, and next thing you know, Wolner's there. But there's a thing about this boss fight that has elements that it's like you're going back and forth. Let's get started. He has 2 gold bands on his left and his right hand, and he's moving them from time to time. And the reason why, it's his life points. If you hit any other body part, you're not going to damage him. And the way to damage him is to destroy those gold bands. And but here's the problem. There's a poison mist that's going to kill you very quickly, so you just can't stand there and constantly attack it, because otherwise the poison mist will kill you very quickly. But at the same time, you got skeletons rising out of the ground in the background, so you're forced to do multitasking. You're like, I gotta deal with this pinwheel skeleton that rolls down, then you got giant wielding skeletons with great swords like wham! And I'm like, and at the same time, from time to time, Wolner will do a Wrath of God AoE effect. He's got dark and lightness coming at the tip of his handle, and he's like, and at times, that's difficult. And the reason why it relates to Flesh and Blood TCG is because sometimes you're on the offensive, and sometimes the rug has been pulled out of underneath your feet, and you're on the defensive. And because you're limited to a hand size of 4, sometimes 3 in Blitz, but that's probably mitigated, is simply because Flesh and Blood is rather unique for that fact, and the fact that you got to be prepare for any different scenario, and one there's no different. You have to change his game plan. Sometimes you're like, oh, I've dealt with the skeletons, but his hands are behind the fog. What am I gonna do? And when they do pop up, oh, lovely, he's got the Wrath of God effect. He's like, and I'm like, oh, alright, I could deal some damage. Now, oh, the fog comes back. Oh, lovely, I gotta deal with the skeletons again. It's a revolting chain. And each boss is going to be rather unique. I mean, there's Crossbreed Priscilla from Dark Souls 1, and she's invisible, which means you're going to be flexible, and you got to track her for the snow, but that won't apply in Flesh and Blood, but she has a bleed effect. And that's similar to on-hit effects that the vast majority of clans have access to. The vast majority of hero classes. I mean, but Ranger is very much well known for on-hit effects. But also, there's the Crystal Sage. Now, when she gets half bar, guess what? Three or others start showing up, and all of a sudden, you go from fighting one spellcaster to multiple spell, and that's no different when a wizard player is setting up for that kill turn. It's where they're launching multiple attacks, whether it's on their turn, which is the most devastating one, as I cover in my Monarch prediction video, but they can also do it on your turn as well, and since they do the boots and other stuff, there is a lot of stuff they can do. But also, not only that, there's also other bosses as well. For example, the Nameless King. His fight is ridiculous. I've never beaten him. And I'll tell you why. He goes from flying on a bird, trying to poke your eye out, to being a fast Nimbus beast. He is fast. And he does not joke around. He represents, and I can hardly get an attack off because he is fast. But so is Slave Knight Gale when he is possessed by the Dark Souls. As you realize in the fight phase, he becomes super fast and he's like bam, bam, bam. And he's super tanky. He doesn't want to go down very quickly. He's no different than a Guardian. And the Nameless King is no different than a ninja player. I'm here to tell you. Each of these bosses represents a hero in various situations. And you can get quite disoriented. And if you're a new player, you're going to find sometimes that this is a grind. But I'd like to go into more detail. I know you were probably realizing how much more does Dark Souls have to do with the fact that we have to have in common with Flesh and Blood TCG. Well, the stamina bar, but let me get a drink. Oh, that's some good peach tea right there. Now, in Dark Souls, they have a green bar that represents stamina. And yes, if there's Souls veteran, I do recognize that you can increase the endurance and increase your stamina. And it's like, how is this going to get past the 4-card limit? Well, as you get further down, you'll always recognize that there's going to be situations to where you're not launching as many attacks as you could before with the many bosses as you progress further down. As a matter of fact, half of your stamina bar is going to be generally used for dodge evading or keeping the shield up. There's no doubt about that. Or you got to keep your guard up. For example, Slave Knight Gale, he becomes greatly easily if you use a great shield with a battle axe in one hand. I mean, the great shield. I did it with Ring Knight paired ultra great swords. I did it the hard way, constantly evading 90% of the time and having to get the combo that's very well known. You know, the spin attack with the ring knight paired great sword. It is ridiculous. But then I was like, back up, back up, back up. Let's wait for the storm, wait for my opening, and do it again. It was ridiculous. But let's get back started with stamina. Well, the reason why it relates to Flesh and Blood TCG is simply because the hand represents, and your hand represents stamina attack, or it can represent stamina defense, or it can represent stamina non-attack actions, which are very good for setting up your turn and being able to either you're putting out an aura that blocks damage, or you're essentially trying to get more rune chant tokens or whatever, or buff your attack, so it's meaningful. So it forces the opponent to use some resources, but you're limited by 4 cards, and there are effects that cause you to discard. Let's take, for example, Pummel, or increase in volition from Runeblade. I don't know how much more discard effects there is, but and there's a reason why I started the Monarch cash-in prediction video. It ties in with this very well too, and I recommend that you watch all 4 series depending on the class, simply because cash-in, when set up right, can help you unmitigate some of the downsides of this game, which is why I think it's going to be available to every class, simply because cash-in allows you more pitch resources. But anyway, there are also cards that have Gogen, and Gogen grants you action points, and action points are limited, just like your stamina is, like your hand size, the forehand, the pitch zone. You're limited, so you need to get more action points to launch multiple attacks, to stress the opponent into using more cards out of their hand to defend. But anyway, a new player, they're probably going to find this aspect to be like, I don't like this. This is a grind. It's not fun. Well, I'm here to tell you, that's part of what Dark Souls is. And I firmly believe that is what Flesh and Blood TCG. It's going to be a grind. It's not going to be fun at times. But we're going to move on to the yin yang symbol that you might have noticed at the beginning. Now, if you go Google it up, the yin yang symbol represents quite a bit. Oh, that hits the spot. But now I'm going to talk about the yin yang symbol. Now I'm sure we recognize what it means. There's a light side, and there's a dark side, and there's a white dot in the dark side, and there's a dark dot on the white side. It represents balance, but if you Google it up, it'll say something different, but it practically represents balance. But oftentimes, the dark represents inward energy, I believe, but oftentimes it's misunderstood. And I'm going to get into what the dark side represents. Represents the grind, and the grind represents, oh, what a drag. I had a good hand, but I need to defend against some of that 10 damage coming my way, whether it's like an Arc Knight Ascendancy with Slogism, or Ninth Blade of the Blood Oath, or it's a massive Guardian attack with the Tower Structure card. I don't know what it is, but I got a pile of cards of leftover cards here. Might be here, and definitely not there, but I think you know what I'm talking about. It's an aura, cost a lot, but it will put a sledgehammer on someone's throat. No doubt about that. Or it's gonna be like one of those twisted tea moments. You'll be like, come on. Guy's gonna be like, you wanna get smacked by this twisted tea? But anyway, but also number two on the dark side, he managed to block most of the damage and has a decent HP lead that he can take some damage and mount a comeback. And by that I mean he'll take some damage, launch a multiple attack, and make you ask yourself, how much damage do I want to take? How many cards do I want to dedicate? Do I want to give up my attack phase? But also, we're gonna get over to the light side now. The light side represents triumph, and triumph represents, oh yeah, I've kept his hand under attack, which in return I was able to launch a big attack to cause a decent lead to occur, which is very good because you can start to take more damage and assess the situation, because you're always drawing more cards at the end of your turn. You need to ask yourself, should I take a decent amount of damage so I can put an even bigger lead on his throat? I'm gonna be like, do I need to put my boot down on his throat right here and now by taking some damage? And it also represents, number two, I've set up well enough to block very well and be able to launch a massive attack that will force him to use most of his hand on defense. Or I'm in position to launch a go wide attack that will have lots of attacks we go again that will get my opponent's attention, and it will get him to asking himself, my opponent's launched a massive attack and I got good cards in my hand. Ugh. There's gonna be many moments like that. But we're getting close to wrapping this up. But one element I'd like to represent here is about the yin yang symbol. There is definitely a grind, and then there's a triumph, a thrill. And the thing is, that's what I like about Dark Souls. Some might be like, oh, I think you're crazy. You like dying countless times. I got better each and every time. My temperament got better. And as you enjoy the grind, there will be some triumphant moments. There will be that adrenaline that pumps through your heart. I tell you what, I had the same reaction against Yorm the Giant. He was actually very difficult for me in the beginning. And afterwards, he killed me so many times. Then I finally got the Storm Sword in the bag, and unfortunately, most new players have to go online to see a guide. Unfortunately, I did, but I finally found out that I have access to Stormcaller, which does massive damage against him. And I was like, huh. I was trying to do it the very extremely hard way without no Stormcaller. And I was like, oh man, that was a lot more easier. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I wish I had known that, because Yorm, I had a huge thrill. It was like, oh man. And that is what I love about Flesh and Blood TCG. There is going to be those moments where you get a sense of accomplishment, but the grind is there. But anyway, I seriously hope this video helps you younger people out who are interested, who get told by a friend, go watch this video. But anyway, Malsar out with Grim Rounds Gaming. And this should be out hopefully before New Year's, the upload time. But Happy New Year's anyway.